Oh. Here we go. This is episode 1
Oh my God.
of the PCLSN Pod. It's definitely episode 1. Ryan, you took the glasses off already?
Well, you know what, Mike? I just
No?
yeah, the darkness is not what I wanted to see. To have a good show, you got to be in the light.
All right. I'm Mike Livingston. Ryan Sullivan is at the bottom of your screen doing whatever that is. Chloe Conwell and Pat Burkhead. We're going to be chopping it up about some PCL basketball for the next hour and a half. We'll be joined by Billy Cassidy at the top of the hour. We're going to go through a lot, recap the last week of Catholic League basketball. We're going to talk about Seth Lundy, his week, Caleb Lundy. It's the second time I did that. Shout out Seth Lundy, though. Talk about Archbishop Wood's week, and then we're going to get into it about our MVP picks halfway through the season, some Catholic League picks, and then talk about this Bonner team that's been pretty polarizing so far this season, and finally get into it with Billy Cassidy. We'll pose some interesting questions to him as the show goes on. But I guess if anybody doesn't have anything to talk about, are you guys excited? Are you guys happy?
You know
We
what,
finally
Mike?
get to do this.
Mike, it's just so great to
No.
be here. That we're blessed on a day like this Wednesday, January 21st, to be on this show, to be right here, right now. I mean, it just couldn't get better. Pat, I was hoping you were going to follow.
That's all I was looking for. Thank you, Ryan.
I mean, this.
Oh, all right. Well, I guess we'll dive right into it. We'll get right into it. We're going to start to go over some scores from around the Catholic League, starting with Bonner taking down LaSalle 61-49 Monday night. Then Carroll over Devon 61-39. St. Joe's Prep gets a close one over Lansdale Catholic 36-33. West Catholic takes down Archbishop Bryan in overtime 65-61. Roman Catholic with a 99-63 victory over Comwell Egan. And Archbishop Wood a 70-67 victory over Newman Goretti. Finally, Father Judge beats Cardinal O'Hara 71-36 down in Springfield. So I know a lot of us were out of games on Monday night. Chloe, Newman Wood, Ryan, Prep Lansdale, and Pat, you're at the LaSalle game. Can you guys all just give me little recaps of what you saw, what you liked from your games, and what people should know?
Yeah, well, I mean, in terms of me going up,
whoever would like to go.
Thanks, Mike. In terms of me going up to Lansdale on a Monday night, not really something I really wanted to do. But you know what? I got to say, to start off, a pretty nice gym. I actually liked it. It was like, it's right there. You know, it's one of the good gyms. You know, you just walk up a couple flight of stairs and there you are. But nonetheless, I mean, in all seriousness, it wasn't the game we were expecting from the Prep. You know, this is a team that typically scores the ball pretty efficiently. We saw them have around 60 points against Cardinal O'Hara. They had over 60 against Newman Goretti, obviously, you know, one of the top 3 teams in the PCL. But in this game, they just they couldn't seem to get into their groove. I don't really understand what the problem was. Maybe it was just Lansdale using their slow pace to maybe get them off their game. I'm not necessarily sure if that was it. But the Hawks, I mean, they didn't really get that many chances to shoot the ball. You know, the 3-pointers weren't really falling. Julian McKee only 6 points coming off a historic 30-point game against Newman Goretti. I thought Will Leswitz played well, very aggressive driving to the basket and getting points that way. Miles Peterson getting the energy back up. He had 6 points as well. I thought the defense down the stretch was pretty solid. The Hawks didn't really let Lansdale inside of the paint that often. I thought Aiden Lewis, you know, not his greatest game as well. I know he's averaging 16 points per game. But the Prep came away with a win. They've been able to somewhat close games this year. Obviously, we saw the game against West Catholic. You know, they were only up by a couple points against Cardinal O'Hara just about a week ago. And obviously they were able to close this game out. So, you know, I think they've done a solid job when it comes to closing games, minus against Newman Goretti. Not the greatest game for the Prep. We saw the interview with Coach Clark after the game. He wasn't too happy with the way things came out to be, and he told me in his interview after the Newman Goretti loss that if they didn't come in with the right mindset, they could have gotten beaten. It looked like that for a while as the Hawks were down, but I think that going into what do you call it? Who do we play? Roman on Friday. I mean, they're going to have to score the ball at a lot more of an efficient level if they even really want a chance of winning that game.
Pat, would you mind taking us through Bonner LaSalle?
Yeah, so as we all know, Bonner came into the game off 2 losses, losing to Newman and Carroll. They kind of needed and I think expected that game over now. It started close in the first quarter and then quarter second and Bonner through most of that game. They beat out with a lot of ball handlers. They have a lot of guys who bring up the ball effortless. And they gave LaSalle some issues with a full court press that we know has struggled sometimes this year. But Bonner controlled most of the game. I think they looked like we'll talk more later.
Chloe, you want to wrap us up with Newman Wood?
I would. So I was at the Wood game, obviously, an upset over Newman Grady, who's really just been, quite the juggernaut in this league. And, they were without Munchie Wright, which I think definitely at least set them back a little bit. I didn't get the chance to talk to Coach Carl after the game, but they've been known to attack in the fourth quarter, which I think really just didn't happen. And I think this was really the biggest thing, is that this was a major performance for Dylan Powell, sophomore on this team. He was averaging 9.8 per game prior to this, and he's basically credited with the win. Of the 23 points that were scored in the fourth quarter to get this win, Powell had 13. He rushed the ball up the lane to get a dunk really early in the quarter, which I think really just woke the whole team up, and he absolutely ran with it. Big performances by Brady McAdams, of course, Caleb Lundy. I think he leads his team really well. He lifts everyone up. I got to talk to him after the game, and he just has nothing but good things to say about all of his teammates, which I think is great. And Wood, I think it's such a statement win for this team. I think since obviously Newman was undefeated, and it's a statement for Wood as well as Powell. He's always been valuable to this team, but I think this win really solidified that for them.
And pretty interesting slate, I'd say, on Monday. Friday leaves us with yet another, as we've seen through the Catholic League this season. It's so cliche, but anything can happen on any given night. And we've seen that to a T this year. I want to run through some of these games on Friday night, get everyone's opinions, and maybe a couple picks here and there. So I'll run through the slate, talk about what we want to talk about. Then we'll move into our player and team of the week up there in Bucks County. Starting off, Newman Goretti, Cardinal O'Hara in Springfield. Should be not all too interesting, but like we said, anything can happen in the Catholic League. West Catholic will pay a visit to Archbishop Wood. Archbishop Ryan heads to Drexel Hill to take on Bonner. Roman will take the short ride up the Broad Street line to see St. Joe's Prep. Father Judge heads to Radnor to take on Archbishop Carroll. Comwell Egan faces Devon Prep. And Lansdale Catholic goes to Winmore to face off with LaSalle. Pat, you want to get us started with your thoughts heading into this game against Lansdale on Friday night?
Yeah, we just saw Lansdale Catholic pick up their first win in a long time, and I think they're kind of rolling right now. They had a close game with the Prep, but what makes that matchup really interesting is it's silent night for LaSalle. The students will come out, fill pretty much a whole side of bleachers. They'll all wear costumes, and three matchups. Steve is a really talented sophomore for LC, and he plays kind of that wing position. So I'd like to see him go up against Max Okabata, who's started to turn it up a little bit in this Catholic League season. Another great matchup is Tyler Branson. We'll see how the Crusaders try to handle him, but I think it's going to be a close game The crowd will definitely energize the Explorers, so we'll see how much that affects a young LC team.
And I think you talk about Lansdale coming off that first win. You talk about Silent Night. It makes a game between maybe two of not the best teams in the Catholic League this season, sort of the game of the night, if I dare say, without a crazy competitive slate on Friday night. That's sort of the place to be in the Catholic League, which it usually wouldn't be in a situation like this. Pat, do you want to give us your pick for the night?
I think LaSalle's going to take it home. They're pretty good on Silent Night. They beat Archbishop Wood last year, but definitely two teams fighting for a similar playoff spot. So I know it's going to be competitive like every other PCL game.
Now, Ryan, you guys up at the Prep have a pretty big one on Friday night. Roman Catholic comes into town. Give us your thoughts going into the game and who you think is going to come out on top.
Well, it's a tough one for the Prep. I mean, obviously coming off a tough game against LC that they were able to walk away from. I mean, maybe it was the snow. I'm not necessarily sure. But I mean, Roman has played really, really well, even though they've lost the games that maybe some of them didn't predict to lose. I mean, they lost to Wood, they lost to Judge. So they've lost some of those bigger games, which obviously knocks them down in our rankings. But I mean, they've won the games that they're really supposed to win, I guess you should say, not necessarily the toss-up games. I mean, they beat Archbishop Ryan amongst teams like that. So they kind of beat teams, I would say. I guess I would say on that B tier sort of level. And I think that's kind of where the Hawks are right now. So based off of history and also the fact that Sammy Jackson's there, you got RJ Smith who can shoot the ball. Bryce Presley's done a great job getting rebounds and also scoring also really turned up his scoring as well. The Hawks coming off that tough game against LC. It's going to be tough for them to win that particular game. But, if there's a student section there, I think they can definitely keep it close. And, yeah, I mean, I will take Roman in this game. But the Hawks definitely have a chance to keep this one close.
Now, I know both me and Chloe won't be able to make it out to games on Friday night, so I do want to run through this slate really quick and get some picks from everybody on these games. So we'll start with Newman O'Hara. Like we said, maybe not the most interesting of games, but we'll run through. I definitely got Newman. And Chloe, who's your pick?
I am going to take Newman on this one, but I will say that, O'Hara did pull off an upset over Wood. It's not entirely unheard of. I think that they could do it again? Possibly, but I definitely would take Newman on this one.
West Catholic, Archbishop Wood. A little more interesting than some people would think. Wood is a team that has struggled. They are a team that did, like you said, lost to Cardinal O'Hara earlier this season, and West Catholic, a team that I got to see earlier this week. They're a competitive bunch, and they won it. They won it bad. I do think Archbishop Wood comes out on top, but I think it's not without a pretty tough fight.
I would agree there, Mike. I think West Catholic, they just got that big win over Ryan. Ever since Eric Scott's come back, they're not the deepest team, but adding a guy like him to that rotation and how good he is going to be a real help for them.
And then we move to Archbishop Ryan at Bonner Prendy. Another game sort of like this Westwood game where it could go one way and we could be over by halftime, or it could go another and we could have a scrap fight all the way to the final buzzer. I will have to take Bonner, not just because Billy Cassidy's coming on later, but because I do think they're the better team. I think they're on sort of a run this year, and I think they're a pretty interesting team in the Catholic League. Ryan just has not been able to put it all together so far.
Yeah, I'd agree there. I think I've said it before. I'll say it again. I think Bonner is a serious contender for this title this year. I mean, they did obviously just have a tough loss to Carroll, who kind of is, on that slightly lower level. So, Ryan could possibly pull out a win here, but I would agree that I do think Bonner has the pieces to get this win.
And then Father Judge heads to a, dare I say it, red-hot Archbishop Carroll team all of a sudden out in Radnor. Interesting game. Sure. Judge is going to win this one. I think they'll probably win it by double digits, pulling away in the final quarter of play. Does anyone think otherwise?
Is it at Carroll?
It is at Carroll.
Gee, yeah, I'm gonna take Judge. Pat, I see you not trying to laugh over there. But yeah, I think Judge will win. I mean, listen, we do keep doubting Carroll, but like, I mean, they keep finding a way to win. They beat Bonner, which was, I think, very surprising in people's eyes. I think Bonner's gotten back on track though. And then, I mean, Judge. I mean, listen, they just beat Roman. They're looking like they're getting back to what they were. At least we hope, or at least for their sake, we hope they're getting back to what they were from last season. I think Father Judge will win.
And to wrap up the slate, we have a, I guess you can call it interesting game, as an 0-4 or 0-7 in the Catholic League, Conwell Egan goes to 1-6 Devon Prep out in Devon. It's going to be a pretty interesting game, only because these are, in my opinion, the two worst teams in the Catholic League this season. It's going to be sort of fun to see who is the worst of the worst, who's the best of the worst. I'm sorry. Is it not true, Ryan?
Well, Mike, you can't, like, I'm noticing a lot of negativity here today.
Oh my God, you're one to talk.
Me? I'm a very positive guy. What's there not to be positive about?
All right, I'm sorry.
You know what, Mike? I forgive you. I know Pat's a little bit, he holds grudges around here, but we got to take with what we can get. But no, I will take Devon Prep. I think that they're. I mean, actually, no. I'm going with Conwell Egan. I'm going with Conwell Egan here. I think that Egan is. What do you call it? I think Egan's the deeper team as of now, and they have a very solid starting lineup, and I think they'll come away with the win.
Pat and Chloe, any takes on the? Not the game. I'm not gonna say that. Any takes on Conwell Egan versus Devon Prep?
I kind of agree with Ryan. I think Egan's gonna pull that one out. I think Miles Moore might be a little bit of a tough matchup for Devon Prep. Obviously, Coach Fisher will have something because his schemes are really hard to defend against and score on, but I think Egan can take that one.
I'd have to agree there. I do think Egan. I think that, I mean, like you said, I mean, they are kind of sitting at the bottom of the power rankings as of late, but, I think Egan's put up more of a fight in some of the tighter contests, and sorry. And I do think that they have what it takes to pull this one out, but I do agree that it is going to be a tight contest.
And Egan's a team we saw did very, very well in their out-of-conference slate. Not so much the case for Devon, who is also struggling in the Catholic League. Now Egan, without a win so far, 7 games into the PCL season. Well, that does wrap up our recap and look ahead. But now you've seen the PCLSN Player of the Week and Team of the Week. Now it's time to discuss it. So we'll start off with our Player of the Week. Not Seth Lundy. Once again, shout out to the PCL's Seth Lundy. But Caleb Lundy, Archbishop Wood's own Caleb Lundy, currently averaging 17 points a game, 28 minutes. He's going 40% from 3 right now, just incredible. 87% from the foul line and 42% from the field. He has been the main cog for this Archbishop Wood team so far this season. A team that we've seen stumble at points, but we've also seen get on hot streaks as of recent. Just right off the bat, give me your takes on Lundy so far this year. Chloe, you've seen him a couple times now. Just talk about what you think of Caleb Lundy and this Archbishop Wood team so far.
I mean, yeah, I think the numbers speak for themselves there, but I think building off of that, like I said already, I think that he is just a light on this team, honestly. Like, speaking to him after that game, I mean, I think he leads this team amazingly, and I think that, let's see what I have here. But I think that this team, I think this is a well-deserved title that they're getting as the team of the week, and for him as the player of the week. They're now 6-1. O'Hara, no one could have seen that coming, but they've knocked down Judge, Roman, and Newman. Now those are three major teams. This team, they, looking at their roster, they have a roster almost identical to what they had last year, with the exception of a few. And so they've totally had the time to kind of build that chemistry and work together on the court a little more. And I think they totally turned it around. Still to come, they have Devin, and then they have Bonner, which is going to be obviously, I think, the biggest test for them, looking at what is left. And I think that I think they're a really strong team, and I think they have a shot at the title this year.
Pat, Ryan.
I would agree with Chloe. I think one of the best parts of the game is his passing ability, and I think he's such a true point guard. Playing with Jaden Jenkins, I think that's one of the most dangerous pick and rolls in the league. I think Caleb Lundy just does such a great job of moving the ball. They have so many offensive threats and scoring at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, this dude is just absolutely killing it. We obviously noted his statistics, but I mean, I think Pat, he hit it right on the head. The impact he has on the whole team in general is just great. I mean, just, able to distribute the basketball when he draws a double team. It's nothing really he can't do. Scores at all three levels. Has a great finish at the rim. I mean, can you make the argument best finisher in the PCL? There's definitely an argument there. But I mean, Archbishop Wood is a team in total. I don't think there's any doubt that they were the team of the week. I mean, with wins over Roman, who obviously we thought is one of the best teams. And we definitely still do. Archbishop Ryan, the team, as I said, kind of in the middle of the pack. And then Newman Goretti, who was the best team, coming in, or a lot of people, pretty much everybody's best team coming into that game. Obviously, they were without Munchie Wright, but even still, they had a 13-point lead over Newman Goretti, something around there, over Archbishop Wood, and Wood was able to come back. So I mean, they really showed it all. They had a great win over Roman. They won pretty solidly over Archbishop, close against Archbishop Ryan, and then they showed resiliency coming back. No doubt that Caleb Lundy was the player of the week, and no doubt that Wood was the team of the week as well.
And I guess the one thing I want to throw in on Lundy is, correct me if I'm wrong, he's the guy that this Wood team has been waiting for, sort of. I mean, you look at the departure of Jalil Bethea a few years ago, only two now, but this Wood team came into last season sort of expected to finish towards the bottom of the barrel. They weren't really given all too much hype, especially for what they've seen over years past, being a contender in the Catholic League perennially. So you see Wood come out this year sort of back in their old form, with Lundy out there being that main guy. I think it's been huge for them. I think his role has been exemplified on multiple occasions for that reason, exactly, stepping up as the number one guy. Obviously alongside guys like Jaden Jenkins and Brady McAdams, and now Dylan Powell has been huge, and it kind of makes Wood a scarier team than some would have imagined. I think those expectations were tempered at the beginning of the season, and then you saw that loss to Cardinal O'Hara, and you're sort of like, okay, is this team really going to be that good? Dare I say, I think they are at this point. I mean, you go out there and you beat an undefeated Newman Goretti team that looked like the undefined favorite in the Catholic League. It gives us sort of a pedestal of sorts towards the top of the league across teams that we really think can compete for the title. So I would like to sort of switch gears a little bit, just talk about this Archbishop Wood team as a whole and what we've liked from them so far, because obviously as our team of the week with that win over Newman, they're doing big things up there in Warminster and definitely want to get into it. So I guess we'll kind of start off again with Chloe. You saw that win. You saw that team. Just what did you really like out of that game? And what would you think has been sort of the, I don't want to say changing, but the new nominative factor for this Archbishop Wood team?
I mean, I think that if that game said anything, it's that they have that grit and they have, the want to win. And let's see. I think that they just are so, I think they were really strong at attacking at the rim, getting those rebounds, making those big plays when they needed to happen, especially, in that second half, in that fourth quarter. They were just, able to attack consistently, and they completely wore down Gretty's offense and were able to get that win, which I think says a lot about this team. And if you look at the rest of the season, they were able to do that with Wood. They were able to do that, with Judge. They were able to do that with Roman. Those clutch moments where they need to attack and make those clutch plays, they're able to do that consistently. And I think that's one of the main things for this team.
And before we go around the horn a little bit, I do want to touch on the end of Wood's schedule, see what we kind of expect from them along the rest of the way. Ryan, you saw this Wood team earlier in the year when they faced off with St. Joe's Prep. And that was a tighter game than a lot of people would have imagined. At that point in the year, they're coming off immediately that loss to Cardinal O'Hara just a few days earlier. You guys, not particularly the best season so far for your standards. And Wood played you close. Can you talk about what you saw in that game and sort of what those expectations were like?
Well, you know what, Mike? I have to be the bearer of bad news here. Wasn't at that game. I was at the hockey game. But guess what? It's okay. It's okay. And when St. Joe's Prep won against Malvern Prep, I want to point that out. And guess what? We're playing Malvern again tomorrow in Westchester, live on WSJP. But nonetheless, I watched that game back, Mike. And what I will say about Archbishop Wood is when they got cold, like they could not make a shot. Like it wasn't really down the stretch. Obviously, they had the lead for the majority of the game, but it was close for so much. And I feel like it's a bit of a problem. When you're looking at Wood, a lot of their games, at hockey with Sam, but nonetheless, I love that profile picture. Anyway, I think that Wood being in these close games, like it's good, but like it's kind of bad. Like it's in so many of these close games against teams that we would expect them as the number one team. Appreciate it, Sam. As the we expect them now as the number one team. I feel like they gotta maybe start winning a little bit. Who just sweet as sugar? I cannot be serious. I'm getting distracted. But nonetheless, you know what? Sorgy's putting this all up on screen. I guarantee it. What do you call it? But yeah, I feel like going forward, and I think it will start to happen because they have the momentum. I feel like we got to see more like bigger wins out of them, if that sort of obviously makes sense. But the game against the Prep was close. Obviously, Roman, they almost lost that lead. It was a very close game. They almost lost the lead. They were up by, I think it was almost 20. And I think that once they start to get into, I don't really want to say the easier part of their schedule. They have West Catholic, they have Devon Prep teams that we expect them to beat by a lot. Then they have Bonner, which is obviously a tough game. I think once, they start to get a little bit into their groove with the teams that are kind of lower seeded, then we might see them, start to pick it up a little bit more in terms of bigger wins. But obviously they were the team of the week. They had some big wins. But I think going forward, we just kind of need to see them, win a bit bigger, which I think they'll do.
Ryan, I'm sorry for not remembering your schedule.
Mike,
I assume
it's okay. It is okay because like, we all got busy schedules around here, and that's just the story of life. Life is hard, man. It's
I just assume in all of your gloriousness that you were able to get to the Prep game and the hockey game in the same night, but that was wrong with me.
Okay.
And I'm sorry.
Pat, I don't know why you're laughing. This is not a joking matter. Life is hard, dude.
I do want to run through the rest of this Woods schedule real quick. I'm going to shout out the game. I want you guys to give me win or loss, and we'll go a couple reasons why real quick. Maybe not for some of these games because they might be a little bit more obvious than some, but we did talk about Wood West this coming Friday. Interesting game. I got Wood. Who do you guys got?
I'm also taking Wood.
I'd agree. Wood.
I think
Ryan, don't be so excited. Come on now.
Oh, I'm sorry. My mother had a question for me.
Ryan, West Catholic Archbishop Wood on Friday. Who do you got?
Oh, goodness gracious. I'm going with Archbishop Wood. I think that, as I just said, we need to let them get bigger wins. They have the momentum. They're a much more talented team. West Catholic, though, coming off a big win over Archbishop Ryan. They have Eric Scott back. I think that West can keep it close, but Archbishop Wood have the momentum right now. I'm picking Wood.
Now, Wood Devon on Sunday, if they actually play games on Sunday, we'll see about that. I think we all got Wood here. Does anyone have any sort of debate to that?
No, we good.
Good. I'm going to make sure of that. Now, fun one, next Friday night, Bonner at Wood. Who do we got?
Yo, Pat, I'm going to let you take this one.
I'm good with Wood. They just beat Newman, and I think they're going to keep rolling. I'm excited to see Caleb Lundy versus two of the best coached teams in the PCL, and I think two of the most exciting teams to watch in the Catholic League. So I think it's going to be close, but I think Wood will come out with a win.
Gee, who did I pick on the sheet? I totally forget. You know what? I will go with Bonner. I like Bonner. I think they're the toughest matchup in the PCL for any team. Maybe in the playoffs they can get beat, but I think for the regular season, kind of the way they match up, I like the all guards. Bonner can get hot at any time, especially when it comes to shooting the three. I'm going to go with Bonner.
Chloe?
I'd have to agree. I'm also taking Bonner. I think that both of these teams have shown that they're able to attack and they're able to, take back the win late in the game. So it really could go either way. But I do agree that I think Bonner. I like their roster. I like their starting five, and I think that they definitely have the pieces to take this one.
I'll preface it by saying, as of right now, I will take Bonner as well. However, this Wood team can easily beat Bonner. I don't have much of a question there. Two teams, obviously, at the top of the Catholic League. I do just think Bonner is a bit more battle-tested, and I'm not 100% confident in Wood just yet. They take down Bonner. I think they're probably going to be one of, if not the number one favorite in the Catholic League. There isn't much question there. You take down the sort of the number 1 and 2 for a long time through the first half of the season. It's kind of not really up for debate. So give me Bonner for the time being, but we will see as time goes on. But we talked about Mr. Lundy earlier in the pod. We talked about some PCL MVP hopes. Now I kind of want to open this conversation up a little bit and talk about who is your favorite for Catholic League MVP right now. We're about at the midway point, a little past the midway point of the season. A lot of names have been thrown around, and it's a hot topic right now. So open it up. Let's talk PCL MVP favorites. Who wants to go first?
Mike, I think that today's podcast has been too much about us. I want you to start, Mike. I think it'd be a great idea if you started.
If I start?
Yeah, I think we all agree. Look at you, Pat. Pat agrees. Chloe agrees. Mike, we want you to start.
Ryan, I'm humbled. Wow. I mean, thank you.
Of course.
Okay.
We're good people.
I mean, at this point, in my opinion, it's a one-man race, and I don't want to be that guy, but where we are right now, it's Corey Francis. I don't think there's much of a question. Caleb Lundy is up there. He is a pretty clear number 2 in my mind, but Corey Francis is my number 1. I mean, he has been the guy as just a junior on this Bonner team. Without Corey Francis, where is Bonner right now? That's sort of my question. We talk about most valuable. We overlook that word valuable a lot when talking about the MVP award. And Corey Francis is the epitome of valuable for Bonner Prendy in my opinion, it gives me very little question. You look at his stats, you don't even have to just look at his stats. Look at how his team has performed this season. I mean, and you look at how this Bonner team plays. Obviously, Pat, we've talked about it before. 4 guards, the way that they run their offense, it's impressive to see how Corey Francis has been able to manipulate his game this season, in particular, to perform at the level that he has, to perform at that MVP level. And I think it just makes it all that more valuable. So now, please, I'll open it up to you guys. Anybody, please don't be afraid.
Chloe. Please.
Yeah. I mean, I have to agree. I think Corey Francis, really is the top contender. I think that, his numbers, are obviously so, they speak for themselves. I think him and Cam are like the backcourt duo in this league. I think they're very tried and true. If you look at the way that things have gone since they've joined this team, it's turned things around from top to bottom. I think that they have better on-court chemistry. I think that he, as from what I can tell, is always, on the money, ready to work, puts it in, just always there. I think Caleb Lundy, like you said, is another contender. I think he's right up there with him. And I like Derek Morton Rivera of Judge. I think that I agree that I do think Corey kind of has a tight lead on this race here, but I think that there is something to say about him and the way that he's carried Judge throughout this season.
Yeah, as we comment, I was going to mention those 2 names. I also agree that Corey is the front runner, but Malik Hughes is doing some great things at Archbishop Ryan. I know Bonner's at the top of the Archbishop Ryan may not be, but Malik Hughes leading the league in points per game, and he's so hard to guard. He's tall, but he can also shoot. And then Sammy Jackson, another one of the most talented players in the Catholic League. He's Roman's guy, Like you said, without Corey Francis, where would Bonner be? I asked the same question about Roman. Francis is pretty clearly in the lead, but definitely some guys who deserve to be mentioned.
Yeah, definitely. Oh no, Mike. Oh, Mike.
No, Ryan, please.
Mike, you're. Oh my goodness gracious. Anyway, I think it is Corey Francis. I think when you look at him and Lundy are kind of the 2 leaders, but I think Corey Francis, and listen, both of them score at a very efficient level. Both of them are, I think Francis at 47% from the field, Lundy 42% from the field. Lundy is shooting a bit better from 3 and from his free throws. But listen, the game's not all about scoring. Defensively, Corey Francis averaging a steal, a block, and 4 deflections per game. Caleb Lundy's not doing that. Listen, Lundy's a very solid defensive player, but Corey Francis has seemed to, and I think even from the eye test, has taken the edge in that part of his game. And you look at the defensive side of the ball for the teams as well. Bonner Prendy holding teams to less points in the PCL. So, I think overall impact on the team, as well as, well, maybe not overall. I guess defensively, overall impact on the team. Corey Francis has been better, but scoring the ball, I think they're neck and neck, but I think Corey Francis puts it over the edge when it comes to defense. Also, I know we've mentioned some other candidates like Sammy Jackson, Malik Hughes, but let's look at Stephon Ashley Wright here. I understand that he's not averaging as, the stats are not necessarily the, comparing to what Corey Francis, Malik Hughes, Sammy Jackson, and Caleb Lundy have. But even looking at out-of-league play for a second, Stephon Ashley Wright has not been in the lineup for the games that Newman Goretti has lost, both to Haverford and Archbishop Wood. Definitely make the argument with Stephon Ashley Wright in those games, they win. So, and obviously with them not having him in the game and them losing, it's pretty clear, and I think everyone's minds, that Stephon Ashley Wright is the most valuable player, and Newman Goretti, as we say, or as most people would probably say, maybe some would not say it after the Wood loss, on the best team. So I think you definitely got to make that argument for Stephon Ashley Wright. I think his name's got to be thrown in there as well.
And I definitely think that's a good place to look at it. You look at any top team and their top player, it's hard to leave them out. Pat, I do want to run back to something that you said about Sammy Jackson that I kind of want to negate. You talk about him, where would Roman be without him? I think they would be doing just fine. Maybe not at the clip that they're doing, but you look up and down this roster. I understand that nobody's necessarily performing at that high of a level where Jackson is, but I think if we're in a world where Sammy Jackson's not playing right now, you look at RJ Smith, Bryce Presley, Dwayne Ruffin, and Brad Wanamaker, and dare I say Samad Robinson as well. These are all guys who I think are capable of giving you double digits on any given night. Maybe not Robinson at that much of a clip, but Smith and Presley for sure are guys who can go out there and perform. We've seen RJ Smith do it in droves before. And Bryce Presley obviously has never gotten that much of attention, I should say, playing in the Interac at Germantown Academy, but he is a damn good basketball player, and he's shown it, maybe not in the way that Roman would have wanted to so far, but he's produced, and he has the potential to be a top player like that. And I think it's just you only have one basketball to go around. I think Roman would be just fine without Jackson, and I think that's sort of the thing negating him from being a top contender for the MVP, but in all honesty, yes, he is having a great season. I just don't think he could necessarily be that guy.
I do want to say, and this is before I have to go get my cheeseburger because a man's got to eat. But anyway, Pat, everybody's got to eat, dude. It's not a laughing matter. But while we're talking about all these MVPs, nobody will ever outdo Two Chill Jordan Ellaby. I mean,
You had to throw that in there,
Mike. Every conversation I have with Nick Masterplito turns into Archbishop Carroll. I got to be able to talk about Jordan Ellaby.
You know what? I'm not even going to give you problems there.
Exactly.
I won't even give you problems there. Oh, okay. Well,
a man's got to eat.
Okay, go eat then.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so we lose Ryan for the interim, but I think wrap up one last point I personally want to make on this MVP front is about Malik Hughes. Yes, probably having one of the best individual seasons in the Catholic League this season, but you got to look at how his team is performing as well. And that's a big debate when it comes to the MVP. Do team results really matter that much when you're talking about a player? I think they do in this sense, just because of the teams that we see competing and how the hierarchy of the Catholic League kind of works. I think it's hard to get that respect as a player on one of the lower level teams. I mean, when was the last time you saw a player go to a Power 5 D1 team in college basketball from a lower end team in the Catholic League that didn't produce in their senior season? But that's neither here nor there. So we'll leave it and move on to the next topic, which I think is going to be probably our most heated of the evening. Who is your favorite for the Catholic League Boys title? Once again, halfway through the season, it's getting interesting. I think there's a top four. Maybe there's more than that. That's for us to decide. So I do want to go around, sort of start talking about who is your favorite right now. Who do you still like? Maybe that isn't your top pick. Pat, I'll go to you first.
I know they just lost to Wood, but for me, it's still Newman. They played without Stefan Ashley Wright. And I know there's no excuses in the Catholic League. They have plenty of talent and could have won that Wood. But before that game, they were just playing so good. I think they were the clear favorite. They lost before without Wright, so they did. And if he's healthy, I think they're the team to beat. I think Wood is up there too. I think those would be my top two for now. But there's definitely some teams that could creep into that for me.
Chloe.
Yeah, to kind of build off of that, I do think that, Newman Goretti, I think, is a safe pick, and that kind of goes without saying. They do have Munchie Wright, they have Deshaun Yates, they have, Cody Colson. Their whole starting lineup, I think, is really strong, and they have shown that they are just able to deliver on any given night. They have Carl Aragel, 30-year coach. He's kind of a legend in the PCL at this point. And they're undefeated until now. They just lost to Wood. That was was, like in the final minutes of the game, So like I think they're absolutely like probably the safest pick for who is going to take this. Wood, I agree. They're on a hot streak right now. They're building that momentum. And they just knocked down Newman. So, who's to say that they can't do that again? Who's to say they can't knock down anybody in this league? And I have to be honest, I have to hand it to Bonner a little bit. I think that they have Corey Francis, they have Cam Jackson, they have Jakeem Carroll, they have Deshaun Holden. They have so many people on this team who are able to deliver consistently. And I think that, maybe if it's not this year, I think it's next year. I think that they definitely have made a case for themselves in the Catholic League.
And I'm right there with you. I mean, right now, I do actually have to go with Bonner for my favorite right now. They were my preseason pick, and it's 6-1 for me right now because there's 4 teams who I think have an equal chance of winning the Catholic League title. You look at Wood, you look at Newman, you look at Roman, you look at Bonner. I think they all have an equal chance. It's who comes out on top. I feel like Bonner has the most in the tank. What's going on with Newman? I don't know. What's going on with Roman? We haven't seen too many issues, but at the same time, they've looked suspect at times. I mean, you look at that loss to Father Judge. I was there. The way that they fizzled out in that fourth quarter scares me. Excuse me. That's not how Catholic League title teams perform, especially in spots like that, especially against a Judge team that has struggled out of the gate this year, that still has questions. It's really difficult for me to look at any team and be all too confident. I'm not that 100% confident in Bonner either. We haven't really talked about it, but that loss to Archbishop Carroll just earlier this week, huge. I mean, that's a huge bummer for them. And you look at Wood, who lost to O'Hara. Every team sort of has its issues. It's just who's going to overcome those issues sooner, I think. Who's going to be able to look past that and who's going to be able to go on a run at the right time. I think Bonner has the firepower. That's sort of where I'm at, is they have the stamina, they have the firepower to make the right plays, to win the right games in the right moments. At the same time, like I said, I could be completely wrong because it's so wide open. And it's very well possible the team outside of that top 5 could win the title. I mean, is there any team outside of that top 4 that does entice you at all, I would say?
I think Father Judge, if they get hot, you saw that shot.
That's what I was going to say.
I think they're a little bit above 6 and low, but obviously Chris Rowntree is a really, really great coach, and if that team heats up, they're going to be dangerous. They have guys that have been to the Palestra, so we'll see what they can do, but I think they're definitely in the conversation.
And yeah, I love what Father Judge has done over the past few years. I mean, it's been very difficult for me to overlook that non-conference schedule for them. Chris Rowntree has talked about it, how he purposely made a very difficult out-of-conference schedule. Then you gotta respect it. It's hard to overlook. It's hard to look past that start. I guess you sort of take a step down and look at the next tier. I mean, you look at teams like Archbishop Ryan, Archbishop Carroll, and West Catholic. Necessarily, do they have a chance? I don't really think there's any realistic chance for either of those teams, but it's wide open. Welcome back, Ryan, by the way.
Thanks.
I do want to get your take into this. Who is your Catholic League favorite right now?
Yeah, it's tough because there are so many teams right now. Everybody's beating each other. So it's kind of tough. I honestly wasn't even joking there, but okay.
No, I know. It's just the way that you phrased it was.
I'm a funny guy. I mean, I can't.
I know. You are.
But nonetheless, I think right now it's got to be Bonner. Toughest matchup in the PCL. Now I know they've had a couple of weird losses that you just didn't expect to happen. But I'll go with Bonner. I think Judge being very underrated right now. They're kind of just sitting in the shadows, getting better. They obviously have a young but old core at the same time. It's weird because they have Derek Morton Rivera, they have Max Mazinski, kind of leading the way, but then they also have a lot of younger players as well getting on the floor. So it's very weird, kind of that connection, but I think they're starting to get it. Obviously, coming off the win against Roman Catholic, Rocco Westwood, I forgot to mention him as well. I apologize, but yeah, I think Judge definite. Mike, you said there's 4 teams. I think I'd put Judge in there. You got to add that 5th team as well. I think Judge is sitting in the shadows, and they could definitely make their way to the championship and possibly win it if they see fit.
So I guess my question for you guys would be: do you think it's a 5-team pool, or do you think it's a 4-team pool at this point?
5.
Yeah, 5. Chloe?
I'd agree 5.
Okay. Well,
I'd agree 5.
Mike, one of these days, you're going to come down to South Philly. We're going to eat cheeseburger together.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Ryan.
Anytime.
Thank you for that, Ryan.
Anytime. Anytime.
I'm sorry. My Judge, my being held back on Judge is not going to stand forever, clearly. Right now, you look at the Catholic League standings, it's a pretty clear, like you said, it's a pretty clear top 5. The one team I do want to ask about before we move on, though, we talked about them, is Roman Catholic. It's a really interesting sort of situation. We've seen them go out there and beat some good teams in non-conference play. We've seen them handle teams like Egan, Carroll, West, and Ryan pretty handily. Ryan was a tight one. That was only a 2-point game. And then they go out there and lose to Wood and Judge. So my question would be, is Roman not necessarily on that level that we all think that they are? We have to wait a couple days until we see them go up against Newman, which is they're going to be their first legit test since Wood. And then we'll see them again against Bonner in Drexel Hill a few days later. But for the time being, I wonder, are we sort of just giving Roman that recency bias, or do we have legit reason to believe that they are still legit?
Well, look at their roster. They have everything that you would want. They have a 6'7" wing that can stretch the floor and score at any level. They have a guard who is D1 as well, and he can shoot. Bryce Presley also can be a D1 guy as well. Can rebound and has now started to score the ball. Samaj Robinson is another one that can stretch the floor, play defense, and shoot threes. They got a couple big men, Bay Moore. I know Lynn as well is there. You look at their team, they're pretty complete. They just got to put it all together. And I think, obviously, Wanamaker, first-year head coach, he's still getting into all of it. I think by the time the end of the season comes around, they'll all have it figured out. And then going into Catholic League championship or Catholic League playoffs, I think that they'll be able to make a run, maybe the Palestra. Do I think they could win? Do I think they'll win? Probably not. But I think that they will be able to figure it out, and we'll definitely be talking about them on this show and many other shows as they move into the championship or into the playoffs. Sorry.
Chloe, Pat, any takes on Roman Catholic?
I have to say that throughout this season, I think that they have a strong team. Like Ryan said, they have that strong roster. But I personally, and this may ruffle some feathers, I just haven't been as impressed with them as I expected to be. And, like you said, they do have that first-year head coach. They have Brad Wanamaker. I almost wonder, did Chris McNesby fuel their wins as much as it looks like he did? I think that, I agree with Pat a little bit that Sammy Jackson has kind of, been fueling this team a lot throughout the season. I think that they make a case to be in the Final Four for sure. But I have to say, I don't think I see them at the Palestra on the last night.
Pat, finish this off, man.
I think one thing to point out is RJ Smith. Maybe not the numbers we've expected, but we saw what he did at Imhotep, and he's such a good player. If he starts to get hot, Jackson, I know it's a first-year head coach, but I think this year after the league gets so open, weeks anything can change. So it's hard to predict, but I think they'll definitely be in the race with Palestra, maybe for a championship, but I think there's a few teams that are above them.
And I think it kind of goes back to that discussion we had earlier, Pat, with, yes, some of these guys aren't producing, but we know the level that they can produce on. And maybe some of the fact that Roman hasn't done great to this point in the season can be attributed to the fact that they have a lot of guys that aren't particularly producing at the level that they're supposed to be right now. So like you said, if some of these guys, RJ Smith, Bryce Presley, namely, can get on track, I think Roman can take another step and possibly be ahead of every team otherwise in the Catholic. However, as the top of the hour approaches, we will have Billy Cassidy on, head coach at Archbishop. I was going to say Archbishop Prendergast. That was, it's been a while. Monsignor Bonner and Archbishop Prendergast High School.
There you go.
There we go. Yes, head coach of the boys basketball team at Monsignor Bonner and Archbishop Prendergast High School at 8:05. So leading up to Mr. Cassidy joining the show, I want to dive deeper into this Bonner team, start to sort of break them down a little bit before we can talk X's and O's with the coach. So right now we've talked about it. Bonner, many of our Catholic League favorites right now. And at the same time, Corey Francis, very possibly, was it all of our PCL favorites for the MVP?
I think so.
It was. There we go. Our unanimous PCL MVP as of right now. I mean, you look at how this team has competed so far this season. It's impressive to say the least, aside from the one outlier, which is the loss to Archbishop Carroll last Friday. And I know, Pat, we talked about the game against LaSalle on Monday. I kind of want to harp back to that just one more time. Can you just walk us through sort of how Bonner was able to play against LaSalle? Was it more of a tight game, or were they able to keep them at arm's length for a majority of the night?
I mean, aside from the first quarter, it was just about double digits for most of the night. I think Bonner played really calm for just losing that game to Archbishop Carroll. A lot of teams might panic after that, but guys like Corey looked very collected out there, and they didn't look fazed by the loss at all.
And I think that's one of the things that definitely does stick if you're Bonner Prendy. I mean, you go out there and you take your first loss in the Catholic League this year, and a loss that second loss in the Catholic League this year following that Newman loss. And your first loss that maybe you should not have taken. And it's to a team like Carroll, who's not that great. You come out there against LaSalle and you're able to compete. You're able to, like Pat said, play calm, play good basketball, and not really be fazed all too much. That's a big reason why I think they're such a competitor this year. I mean, you look through the rest of their schedule, they've taken care of who they're supposed to take care of. They've taken care of Lansdale Catholic. They've taken care of St. Joe's Prep. They've taken care of Conwell Legan. Tight game against Father Judge, but like we said, Father Judge is a very competitive basketball team. That's nothing to shake your head at whatsoever. So kind of just want to dig deeper into this Bonner team right before we get Billy on. What are your thoughts on Bonner as a whole? And how far do we think, what do we think, I should say, they have to do to get to that Catholic League title?
I think the first thing I want to say, shout out JV Crimson getting a win over Holy Ghost Prep. Go Prep. Mike, My guys are on JV Crimson. My guy, Mark Jameson, JV Crimson, Dominator. Yeah. Anyway, nonetheless, I think Bonner is a interesting team. You look at probably the best teams in the PCL, minus Judge. Everybody pretty much has a big man. You look at Roman, they got a big guy. Wood got a big guy. Newman got a big guy. They have someone that is that sort of rebounder. And they got a taller guy on the floor. Bonner's not like that. They put 4 guards on the floor at once. And somehow it seems to work. They all can shoot threes. And you got Corey Francis who can drive it in the paint. I mean, I remember when I saw him play against St. Joe's Prep, there were literally 4 guys collapsing on him inside of the paint, which led to open threes for guys like Cam Jackson, Jakeem Carroll, amongst others. And they're just such an interesting team to watch, and a great team to watch as well, because of those things that they can do. And I think that's the reason that I have them as my PCL favorite at the current moment in time. Just a great team, and obviously led by our front runner for the MVP, Corey Francis, and a great coach in Billy Cassidy, who we'll talk to in just a matter of moments. There really is no stopping Bonner from taking the Catholic League and, also having the MVP on their team as well.
Chloe, Pat.
Yeah, I think that one thing that hasn't been mentioned yet is that this team's last visit to the Palestra was in 2018, and their last championship prior to that was in 1988. So I think that, getting a win for this team would be, obviously huge, as they haven't won in the modern era. And I think that they have, like we said, they have 4 guards on the court. They have Cam Jackson. They have Corey Francis. They also have Jakeem Carroll, Aiden Scott, Deshaun Holden. They have such a consistent roster that I think is able to deliver on any given night. And they're able to pull out wins like that, like they did against Judge, like they did amongst others. And I think that, like, we all have kind of agreed that they are a top contender. And I'm really excited to see how the rest of their schedule goes.
Pat, wrap us up, buddy.
Yeah, I thought Ryan made a great point about Corey Francis attacking the paint. When I talked about their win over LaSalle, he pointed that out too. He mentioned how he got hot offensively early. I think after that, LaSalle attracted a magnet, doubles, even triples at times. And I think one of his most underrated abilities is his playmaking. And he's surrounded by such great perimeter shooters that when he's moving the ball to them, it's such a complete team. And I think that's why sometimes not having a big doesn't matter for them.
So, I mean, with that, it sort of sets us up perfectly for Coach Cassidy to hop on. Should be a matter of moments, not exactly sure when. But right now, I guess sort of just setting up Bonner, 5-2 now in the PCL, coming off a good win over a LaSalle team that has struggled a bit this year. Prior to those losses to Newman Goretti and Archbishop Carroll, they are looking like one of the top teams in the Catholic League, looking like one of our favorites to win the title. We've all talked about it. We've all hyped them up a lot this year. Billy Cassidy took over as head coach back in 2022. Like Chloe said, Bonner not making it to the Palestra since 2018. So Cassidy as head coach, and all of these guys on this Bonner roster obviously have not seen the floor at the Cathedral just yet. This Bonner team sort of out here competing with I don't want to put it like this, but the big boys of the Catholic League. Archbishop Wood, Roman Catholic, and Newman Goretti, who have all dominated the Catholic League throughout the last couple decades. You put that 5th team in there, Father Judge, the reigning champion. You can't really overlook them at all. So Bonner is the outsider. They are the team everyone's sort of looking to possibly once again change the tides of the PCL, to drag them away from the ways of the past, the ways of the dynasties, that have owned this league over the course of the past 3 decades. So we're all going to be able to pose some questions to Cassidy. We have about a half hour left in the show, 25 minutes to be exact. It's going to sort of run like an around the horn type deal. We'll all go around and pose a couple questions to Coach Cassidy, talk about what exactly we particularly want to, and dig into a couple deeper topics on this Bonner team. Feel free to leave comments down below. Maybe if we have enough time at the end, we should be able to get to some. And for the time being, while we await the arrival of Coach Cassidy, I guess the one thing we didn't do is look over this Sunday and Monday slate in the Catholic League. So while we have time, why not do a couple more pick'ems? Because we're not going to talk until after these games. So as we do, I will throw out a couple games. We'll go over a couple picks and see what we have. So in my opinion, probably the most interesting game, maybe not the best game for standards, is Ryan Judge. It's always fun. I mean, it has potential to be fun again, just because we don't yet 100% know what Judge is. This Ryan team has been scrappy, and it's always fun when these two teams play. Probably the second biggest rivalry in the Catholic League behind the obvious. Everyone just want to go out there, give me your quick picks. Does anyone have the upset is what I'm interested in.
Nah, I'm sticking with Father Judge. I mean, that right. I mean, listen, Ryan's coming off a tough loss to West Catholic. Obviously, they'll get some games in before that. I think that Judge right now, as I mentioned, that they're getting hot. I think that they'll win this game. But I mean, I don't even, Mike, are these games gonna happen on Sunday? I mean, this is there's a snowstorm coming.
What I'm actually thinking is it wouldn't make too much sense for them to play a Saturday slate right after a Friday slate, because me and Sorge were talking about this. It wouldn't make too much sense for them to move them ahead, which is usually the move. So I'm thinking probably they'll move them all to Wednesday night.
That doesn't.
I believe
that's not going to work, Mike. There's hockey on Wednesday.
Well, it doesn't all revolve around your schedule. I mean,
well, you know what, Mike? I feel like it should.
You know what? To avoid a huge confrontation that would tear PCLSN apart,
yes,
I think we should welcome on Coach Billy Cassidy of Bonner Prendy. Coach, thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate it. Hope you're doing well tonight. We'll pose this to you so me and Ryan stop fighting about it. What are you thinking about the snowstorm coming in and how it might affect the Catholic League games coming up this weekend?
It's the first question we got in the locker room tonight. I said I'm tired of thinking about it. Worried about Archbishop Ryan on Friday night, and then we'll go and worry about the snow when it arrives on Saturday or Sunday.
A true coach's
so that's kind of my answer. Archbishop Ryan.
And we got to respect it. So we're going to run through. We're all going to pose to you a question or two and just get you through this for about 20 minutes from the end of the show. So I'll start us off here, sort of just looking at a grand picture of things so far for you guys this season. I mean, you are clearly one of the top contenders in the Catholic League. I mean, you look at you guys, Newman, Roman, Wood, and even Father Judge competing at the top of the league this year. You guys are sort of the outsider for all things, putting all things considered. Roman winning the title back-to-back in 23-24, Father Judge coming off the title last year, and then Newman and Wood obviously recently winning, but also dominating the last couple decades of Catholic League basketball. For you guys, haven't made it to the Palestra since 2018 and haven't won the Catholic League since 1988. Can you just talk about what it's sort of like being that new contender, sort of breaking in with these big guys and trying to compete for that Catholic League title?
Well, I mean, every team is is super competitive this year. I know, Wood beating Newman the other night clearly, shows that with no undefeated teams now. But we still got 6 really, really tough games to go that can change, the standings for everybody over the next, 3 weeks. So it's very early still. We're at the halfway point. We're in a decent spot right now, but we're not satisfied with a couple of our losses, and we got to get some games back. To get us into a position we want to be in, so we can keep this season going as long as possible.
So I'll open it up. Pat, Chloe, Ryan, whoever'd like to take the floor first, please.
Yeah, we've talked about the 4 you guys start, and you don't see that from every team. When you play against a bigger team with a big, what advantages do you think the 4 guard gives you, and how have you seen that so far this season?
I think the advantage for us is the speed, and then obviously the skill sets that all of our kids can bring to the game. The ability to make shots, and then make for each other. So that's an advantage on the offensive end. And then the defensive end, they're not scared. So they guard very, very hard. They fight very hard, through screens. And then obviously rebounding is, that's the challenge with this team. But, it's something we preach. It's something we constantly work on. And, for us to finish the way we want to finish these last 6 games, we have to rebound the ball very, very well. So it's just a constant habit that we're trying to instill. And size doesn't always matter when you're rebounding the ball. It's just having that instinct to go after it and attack it and secure it. So that's kind of how we approach the rebounding part of it against the bigger teams.
Yeah, Coach. We talked a bit earlier on the show about Corey Francis and how we think he's the unanimous MVP, at least in our case. What do you think about that? What do you think about Corey this season? Do you think he's the MVP in your eyes?
I mean, as his coach, right, you would love for, your players to get those accolades and all, but, that's not Corey Francis, and, that's not what we're looking to do. Corey's the ultimate leader. He leads by example in every way, academically, athletically, shows up early all the time, the best teammate, always pushing guys. So, if we can continue to win some games, then, all that stuff will fall into place. But, I'm sure that's a goal of his. But I guarantee you winning is number 1 for Corey Francis.
Now, Coach, looking at the rest of your schedule, you will be facing Wood and Robin right next to each other in about a week or so. What do you think needs to happen for this team to make it out on top for both of those games, and also to eventually make it out on top at the Palestra later on next month?
Chloe, we cannot look ahead that far, right? We have Archbishop Ryan, who's a very, very dangerous team Friday night coming into our gym. And then we have a West Catholic team that is very dangerous as well, who just beat Ryan in overtime the other night. And then, like you said, we have at Wood on a Friday night. And then I believe we're home against Roman Catholic that following Monday. So one day at a time. But like I said, all these teams, they're loaded. They all have different playmakers and different styles of play. Some are guard heavy. A couple of the teams are, they got some bigs with the guards. But that's why this league is the best, right? You know what I mean? You have all these different caliber of teams and talent, and then the coaching to go along with it. It makes it very, very tough each night. So we look forward to every challenge, But like I said from the start, we are very locked in on Archbishop Ryan Friday night, and we want to get that done on our home court.
If I could just
Now-
jump in, real quick for a follow. I'm sorry, Mike. If I could just jump in for a follow up real quick, Coach. You're talking about one game at a time, one day at a time. You also talked a bit earlier how your guys, might be focused a little bit on the future as well. Obviously, talking about the snow and what time the games are going to happen. How do you plan to instill the mentality that you have one day at a time into your guys as the season goes on?
That's just the approach that I think you have to have in this league, right? We took a tough loss Friday night to Archbishop Carroll. That's the PCL. You have to find a way to show up the next day, ready to go, have an edge, and then go to a LaSalle on a Monday night and find a way to win that game. And now you get a little bit of momentum. We want to keep that. So we just got done a good practice tonight, and then the goal is to be better tomorrow, and then Friday take care of business. So just one day at a time. That, like you said, just trying to be as best as we can today, and then we go from there.
So, Coach, you've talked about it. You've talked about, like you said, one day at a time. Archbishop Ryan, Archbishop Ryan, Archbishop Ryan. So I kind of want to talk about Archbishop Ryan. You're going into this game on Friday. It's a big game. There are no small games left in the Catholic League. We all know this. And especially this season, just how many times we've seen teams get upset and teams win games that they weren't projected to win after all. How do you guys go into this game against a really scrappy Ryan team that just never seems to quit and know what you have to do and know that you have to put this team down in the right fashion? How are you guys sort of prepping for this Ryan team and prepping for this game in general?
Well, it starts with Coach Joey Z, right? He's one of the best coaches in the PCL. Every coach knows that. So we know his guys are going to be ready to go. He's going to have a great game plan for us. And then they have a handful of players that can do some things, starting with Malik Hughes. I think he's the leading scorer in the PCL right now. So it starts with him, and then they have they're like us. They got 3, 4, 5 guards that can make shots and put the ball on the floor and score in other ways too. So it should be a very fun game Friday night for spectators and all that. Just because the styles are pretty similar, but we just got to make sure we're focused on our game plan and making sure we execute it.
Now, I'd say everyone obviously talks about Corey and Cam, how great they've done for you this season. Is there anybody else on your team you really want to highlight? Because you haven't gotten this far with the effects of 2 guys. Who on your team has really stood out to you this year and made that difference in your eyes?
The other 2 guards, Deshaun Holden and Jakeem Carroll, in all of our games where we've done pretty well, they've, played huge roles in that, whether it's making shots or, affecting the game in, a multitude of ways. And then Aiden Scott, really one of our only true big guys. You know what I mean? He's been tasked with a lot of tough challenges with the different, versatility of all these teams that have, different type of 5-man. And then off the bench, Mason Price and Tariq Warner have given us sparks in some games. So we're going to need them to continue to have some big moments off the bench for us, especially, in this last 6-game run.
Yeah, we're talking about the future, obviously. I do want to kind of go in a little bit of the past. Obviously, Archbishop Carroll, a tough loss for you guys, but you guys were able to come back against LaSalle and pretty much control for most of the game. When you look at those 2 games and in between, what do you think changed in the coaching staff, in the team, from the Carroll game to the LaSalle game?
I just think the Newman loss, right? That was a tough loss at home, and then to respond back on the road at Carroll, another dangerous team, and they came out and they jumped on us right away. So, I think after that game, it just woke our kids up just to let them know that, anybody can be beat if you don't show up ready to go, and you get behind early. It's extremely difficult in this league to come back from, those large of deficits. So I think it was just a kickstart going into that LaSalle game that we want to get off to a strong start. And if we don't, make sure we continue to buckle down on the defensive end and get stops. And, if we got to grind it out 4 quarters, then that's what we got to do. But we were able to get, a nice lead at halftime, which was good for us.
When you, I apologize. When you look at that LaSalle game, and you obviously kind of going back, when you look in between, who do you think was the biggest leader, the biggest guy to step up and say, "Hey, we got to be better. Hey, we got to, we can't drop these amount of games." Who was that guy? Was it Corey? Was it somebody else?
Corey and Cam, they had a team meeting after our practice that they wanted to do on Sunday. So, that's the leadership. That's the captains of the team. And, obviously that Carroll loss, it hurt our guys. That's what that showed me. So it was good for them to do that because they care and they want to win. So, and that's how they responded at LaSalle. So it was good to see that.
Yeah, talking about Corey and Cam a little bit more now. This is your 3rd year as head coach, meaning that you did come in at the same time as them. But nevertheless, how has this program changed following the arrival of Corey and
Cam? Corey, Cam, and Jakeem, they all came in together. They come from great families. They've played together. Our top 7 guys have played together pretty much their whole life at some point, or versed each other at some point growing up. So I just think, the life skills that were instilled in them from their parents kind of helped us out as a staff to just continue to mold, certain pieces. You know what I mean? They're great individuals. They all do very well in school. They all have that leadership tool, and then they all work extremely hard, outside of practice and things like that. So as a coach, that's all you really want. You want great kids. You want kids who obviously take the academics very seriously. So, it leaves issues for me to worry about. And then, you want them to show up and work hard and be excited. And that's kind of how they approach it every day. And it's showing right now. So, this group, they deserve some success. And, that's what we're on the hunt for.
Yeah, if I could jump in once again, you talked about how they all kind of came in at the same time. I mean, what do you think has been like the biggest, I guess I would say, factor in their growth and putting themselves in the place that they're in now?
Just working extremely hard, honestly. They work on their game all the time. They're always working on their bodies, getting nutrition plan, all stuff. So, if you look at the transformation of their bodies from, 8th grade to now, obviously they've grown a little bit, but their bodies have really developed and things like that, which have helped them, succeed on the court in this league because of how, physical the games are, and you can get knocked around really easy. So I think that part of it, the part and their growth of their bodies have, developed in the 3 years.
Yeah, if I could follow up on that once again. I mean, how have you guys as a coaching staff and as a program continued to help them do the right thing, help them grow their bodies with nutrition plan you just mentioned. How's a coaching staff, giving yourself credit, have you been able to develop them into what they are?
Well, they're considered family, so we spend 12 a year with our. We don't really have an off season. We're constantly together.
Looks like
Pat,
we
what'd you do?
lost Coach Cassidy.
Pat,
That's not very good. I guess the Wi-Fi wasn't too good over in Drexel Hill. Well,
Pat, I know they beat LaSalle, dude, but like, why'd you have to kick them off?
oh, Coach, welcome back. I'm sorry. We'll let you finish that answer.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we're all good.
Yeah, I think Pat got rid of you. He was mad about the LaSalle game.
Yeah, I just think, we spend a ton of time with the group. And, it's not always basketball. And I think all that stuff is just important for these kids today, is just, being there and making sure, as coaches, we're setting the example and making sure, we're doing our part to, show them the things that matter. A lot of us now have, kids, full-time jobs. You don't get paid much at all to be a coach in the Catholic League, assistant coaches, all of that. So it's not, we're doing this because we love the game. We love our guys, and, we want to see them all succeed. So that's really why, we're all coaching, and that's the type of staff we have to, be role models to our guys.
Pat, why don't you get in one more question?
I know. With such talent on the offense, we've talked about the 4 guards, Aiden, Scott, and then the 2 guys off the bench. How do you keep them to have the mindset to keep the ball moving and share the ball with each other? Do they do that naturally, or was that something that you had to teach to them?
Like I said, they kind of played with played on the same team or against each other for, some parts of their life. So it's kind of been instilled in them to just make the right play. And they're completely fine with whoever takes a shot. That's why, we've had some success early in the season with some of our games, is because, they don't get caught up if somebody takes a shot that, we all don't agree with, or, the shot probably wasn't the best shot that possession, but they're okay with it. And, they love sharing the ball with each other, like you said. And, that's kind of who they are. So they're selfless, and they want to do whatever it takes to win.
If Chloe don't got one more, I want to sneak one more in.
Ryan, bye.
All you, Ryan.
Okay. Coach, somebody that I consistently talk PCL basketball with gave me a quote, and I wanted to get your reaction to it. He said, Bonner is the toughest matchup of the PCL. They can put out 4 guards at once, and I think they can beat anyone. What's your reaction to that?
I mean, we feel confident going into every game versus, whoever it is we are matched up against. That's our style of play right now. So we have to make it work. We have no choice. So, in this league, you got to make shots. You got to defend. You got to rebound. And, hopefully you're making shots. If you're making shots, you got a chance to win. And when you're not making shots, your defense and rebounding better be, up to par, or, it's just going to be extremely hard to win.
All right.
Well, Coach, with that, I want to say thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Pat Pat, Brian, Chloe, thank you all as well for joining the show tonight. It was a good time. I will catch you all next week at 7 o'clock right here on the PCLSN YouTube channel. Good night.
Oh, geez, Pat just left us here. Shout out Fred Hockey. You know what? Until Sorgi ends the stream, Pat and I are just going to stay here. Oh, never mind.